guess like, obviously I've been called Tesko since I was like, I don't know, 14, 15, you'll never remember. Spaces I'm Mr. Work.
Of course.
Or I'm a dad, or I'm a husband or whatever. But when it comes to the dancing, or even the music and stuff, I just try and embody this thing of like Tesko. And it's almost like a cloak. What the guy teaching this Money B that runs Playboys Inc. calls it the coat of flyness. The imaginary coat of flyness. I've kind of taken that and I've channeled it into this Tesko thing. So after I kind of stopped playing basketball, I was b-boying for the Flying Jalapenos. And there was Polish guys that trained with us, and Palotti, the guy's name is, and he was just very about when you dance, you need to be the character, you know. And he's like, let your personality come out and all that. So I've always kind of thought about that and how I come across. So even when I was breaking, I was all about like the top rock. I liked all the moves and stuff I was trying, but I was always about coming in and showing my personality. So I guess from then to now, I've always been about, in terms of who are you, I identify as Tesko. It got changed to a K because of Gazmac. Actually, he's a really famous graffiti writer in Scotland. Well, he was also one of the first b-boys. And he was writing it, and he was like, you need to write it with a K because it runs better. I still can't do hand style on it, but so it's nice as well because I've got that, right? So I've had this sort of history now for the past over 10 years now. I don't even know how long it's been. I've sort of had this story, and this thing of Tesko's kind of taken it. So what I do now is known as body popping when it hit this country, right? And it came over with the hip hop movement. You're talking like 70s, 80s, right? It really boomed in the 80s here. So it hit here quite quickly, and it just was everywhere. And with breaking came body popping. But breaking's from New York, and popping is from the West Coast. In fact, the actual origins of this dance come from Auckland, right? So this is what I do now, right? So I don't do popping really that much now. I like to study the history of it. People used to do like James Brown dances, right? Or even on the records, right? You hear them do the funky robot, do the funky penguin. You've got like the popcorn. You hear James Brown shout, "Watch me while I do the boogaloo," and his music, right?
The boogaloo. Funky chicken. The old James Brown.
And that was what they called it back then, the boogaloo, because I don't know if he was kind of helping push it out, because James Brown was loved by everyone, right? And everyone who was young and black followed his music and did what he was doing on the stage, dance-wise. And also James Brown was travelling all around the USA, seeing young kids with new dances and taking them with him, right? So in Auckland, they used to meet in car parks and do dance-offs, essentially, right? And they called it boogaloo. But they also did, more importantly than these car park things, was talent shows. Talent shows were massive, man. It was such a thing. Like Britain's Got Talent, right?
In the street.
So they call it boogaloo. And it was robotic movement, but also like some steps were kind of like that era of like funk. And then in San Francisco they had their own take, San Jose had their own take, Sacramento, Richmond, this whole area, right? Yeah. So in stage shows and talent shows were still big in San Francisco, but they call it strutting, from this group called the Granny and the Robotroids, right? And strutting comes from, I mean, think about it, it's like pimp culture, right? This is the thing, right? See at this time, see the heroes in these communities, it was like the pimps and the hustlers. Yes. And it's still in the culture now a little bit, isn't it? Around like hip hop and rap, they wear their wealth and stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, like in terms of like obviously dance in like Scotland, I mean, what's the scene like?
So in terms of like, well, obviously in the breaking scene, the Flying Jalapenos were quite big. But in Edinburgh there was two kind of crews, Random Aspects and Cycle Styles, both really good. cycle styles with these young guys that came out of nowhere, man, and they were just amazing. Their power moves and that, doing all sorts of stuff nobody else could do.
Yeah.
And then Livingston had one called Heavy Smokers, and I think for me now they're one of the best in Scotland, right?
Oh wow.
Like they're so creative and they can do loads of stuff, man, and they've got the right mentality.
Love it.
But there's always been wee pockets of people doing stuff, right? And even up in the Highlands there's a crew. And the guy that started that crew back then is now teaching kids, and he's a bit more open to like interpretation of like modern styles of hip hop. Because what hip hop dance is like nowadays it's like the dance moves that are in the music videos all kind of thrown together, as long as there's a sort of hip hop groove behind it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that in Glasgow. Actually,
Yeah.
the thing about see with the battles and stuff like that, I've had moments where I've been annoyed because I've maybe I've felt that I've won.
Oh,
You see, because it's subjective.
I've got you.
You get judges that I'm like sometimes we have bias. I'm not always aware of the biased judging, but being an outsider, mate,
Yeah.
for here, go to London and that, and because of the competition culture, people want to dance the way it's going to make them win.
I've got you.
But like I was saying, I don't really care about that.
Yeah, yeah,
Because now it's part of my identity and it's my art. It's like
yeah.
being an artist, that means you do the same thing every day because you love it and you want to just improve it.
Yeah,
Do
for
you know
sure.
what I mean?
100%.
So it's like, I'm all about that, man.
Sick. I love that.
Do you know? Oh yeah. Hell yeah, Tesko, man.